Okay, so most of us got into creative work because we genuinely enjoyed the process of making things. It was way less about who we help and why, and more about the output. Does it look good? Does it feel right? Does it reflect my taste? It's all about the aesthetics. But in reality, our work doesn't exist for our own fulfillment. It exists to make things more appealing to the end user. In other words, to sell. Design, design for art aside, our job is to maximize someone else's profit and to increase shareholder value. This might sound a bit more sinister than it is, but many of us haven't really sat with that realization yet. Because if we had, we would probably be a lot more conflicted about the work we take on and on how much we charge for it. To some, this realization means shifting into purposeful value-based work. But in a system built around consumption and growth, at what point does our work start to conflict with the values that we claim to have? Our guest today is Julia Weithaler, founder of To Be Honest, a Vienna-based digital design studio she has been running for 14 years. She is currently working with purpose-driven brands. Before we get into it, can you introduce yourself and tell us what To Be Honest is about?
Yeah, thank you for the invitation and hello. My name, as you said, is Julia, and I am the founder and creative director of To Be Honest, a Vienna-based design studio that focuses on branding and web design. And I've been in design for almost 2 decades. And at some point, I felt like I'm more about not only about the looks of projects, but also the meaning of projects. And that's when I rebranded and launched To Be Honest to be a design studio that works with value-based businesses and purpose-based businesses. And I help my clients to put their business ideas and their vision into a clear strategic design.
On this podcast, we talk a lot about value, but whenever we talk about value, we usually talk about it from a perspective of like pricing and like pricing for your worth, basically. So we look at it from that perspective. However, when you talk about value and purpose, you seem to be taking like a different angle. Can you tell us what you mean to be a value and purpose-driven studio and what it looks like in practice?
Yes. I mean, what you said, the financial aspect of value is also very, very important, especially for us designers, because a lot of us are too cheap with the services. And that's a problem, but that's a whole nother part.
Mhm.
And so for me, I was working for almost 15 years when I had this realization that the whole industry is super capitalistic and we help businesses to sell more and faster and better. And it's such important work, but there are also businesses that drive to do better within the system. I mean, we are all part of a capitalism world and capitalistic world, and that's just a fact. But for me, I wanted to choose businesses that have the intention to do better and who want to do good, like support the environment or have a social aspect or even just being nice people. And that's when I thought, okay, I'm going to rebrand and I'm going to put this into the front of my services. And that luckily worked really well because I think it came to me quite naturally that all of my clients are nice people that strive to do better within this world. And I hope it stays that way.
Okay, so you mentioned that you just quite recently turned into like rebranded into like more of like a value purpose-driven studio.
Yes.
Do you think that that's something that would have been possible in the beginning as well? Like what I'm yeah, thinking about the aspect of can you be that selective when you just start out?
Well, that's a tough question. If you have a very good network, maybe. So for me, I mean, I started out with my freelance business. I went freelance in my mid-20s, which is 15 years ago now. And back then back then we didn't have the tools we have today. There were no online courses, no YouTube tutorials. I was just raw dogging it really. I came out of university and I thought, okay, I want to be my own boss. And then I went to Vicar and got my make in the other shed. And
I did the same
then
thing. I get
yeah.
it.
And then I started freelancing in agencies, and of course I took on everything that came my way because I needed to earn money. I didn't have much savings. I just needed to earn money. And I think for me, it came with the years of working with many, many clients and working with different kinds of clients and different kinds of teams that I wanted selfishly to have a work environment in which I feel good at and in which I can do my best work. And that came with niching down really on who I work with, because I think the work that we do is so personal and we give so much of ourselves within every project. And I really want to like the person that I'm working with and not just have somebody that I'm working for. And yeah, so
You
doing
said
this
that,
while starting out is maybe possible, but as I said, I think you will have to have a huge network and maybe already know some people.
yeah, you said that the realization of the capitalistic nature of our work came later, but is it something that deep down always bothered you? Like when you were working on these projects early on, is it something you noticed about the work that, like that personal aspect, or that the values weren't in the forefront, but instead things like, how can we make more sales or convert more people? Is that something that you still noticed, even though it wasn't like this big realization that you had?
I think it was lingering. It was always there somehow. But then, I started out at an agency and we had this big financial client, which is like the hard opposite. And then it was just about numbers and performance and what does best. And for me, as a young designer coming straight out of university, where you are able to work so freely and everything is about ideology and the nicest concept, and then you're just put in this real world, working world. It was no, it wasn't that hard, but it was a realization that was lingering and it got stronger over the years. And at some point I thought just like, okay, maybe now is the time to really try to focus on the good things, because the world we live in, especially right now, it's tough. And I don't know what's going to happen in the future. And I think we do have a strong voice as creatives and we are able to use it and we should use it. And for me, that's by choosing who I work with and supporting the right businesses.
Hmm. Have you have you ever s- have you ever said ever since rebranding, have you ever said no to like a project opportunity because the lead didn't align with your values?
Yes, I did. I did a couple of times actually, but more in the past years. So in the beginning, I was saying yes to everything, but in the past years, when a client comes to me and I do a fit check, a vibe check, and there I really want to see if this would work out, because having I I think it's a difference between there are difficult clients or demanding clients that can be really interesting to work with because they make you do your best work, and I actually enjoy that. And then there are the impossible clients, and right now I do have a few for them, and I say no to those. It's normally the same type every time. So
Yeah. Do you feel like maybe not right now, but did you ever feel like it was hard to balance like your like keeping your business alive basically, versus like your values and purpose?
there have been some times, luckily, like during COVID, I had a lot of work. I was booked out constantly, and then after COVID, there was a drop in clients. So like so many, I experienced that
Mm.
as well. And then I did some work that wasn't 100% aligned with the businesses I work with, but the people I work with were very nice. So that's okay. It's not black and white for me, really. It's a gray zone, and I mean, we all do have to survive. And if we have the chance, or if I have the chance to choose, I will always choose the right, or what's right for me, business to work with.
Yeah, I think that's so important what you said, that it's like not black and white, and a lot of things are gray. And I think that we all have like a certain point where we draw the line. Like if someone came to us, I can think of maybe one or two, like especially like political parties or whatever.
Political things,
Yeah.
yeah.
Exactly, where we would personally draw the line. But I think that really like it's difficult to look at it in black and white. And I think that some
Yeah.
people like to look at these things in black and white and don't really see the nuance. Actually, I have an example of what happened to
Mhm.
us. Like one of our biggest clients is Kylie Jenner,
Mhm.
and we designed several online stores for her, and we also like shared our work, of course, and we're like super proud of it. And something weird happened to me because when I shared the work, a friend reached out to me and she was basically criticizing us for taking on a client. And she was like, "Yeah, why do you work with her? Like she has like really like she didn't like her as a person, she didn't like her
Mhm.
business practices." And sure, I mean, I cannot say that we are like 1,000,000% aligned with every practice. Um, but I would like be lying that we ever thought about turning that account down. Like, no. And I can actually say that they are like one of our favorite clients because of how we work together. Like also what
Yeah.
you mentioned, like, hey, sometimes you maybe took on a client where you're like, okay, maybe not 100% our values, but we vibed so well. We understand each other so well. And we actually had like a really good and healthy work relationship. And this is something that happened to us here as well. And when my friend said that to me, I got like a little bit insecure. Like I went inside, or maybe insecure is the wrong word, but I got reflective. And I was thinking, okay, maybe is this like right, like what she's saying? But then I was like kind of like spinning that scenario on. Let's say we didn't take on the account, and this is like a high budget account. It's not something that's just like a small project on the side that if you turn it down, it doesn't really have like a big business impact. It had like a really big business impact. So turning down an account could really mean like keeping the lights on or not. And if we had turned that account down and nothing came afterwards, we might have had to like close the doors. And then we would have gone to another agency that took her on as a client and then work for that account. And it's kind of like, where do you find the balance between really like understanding what's like good for your business and keeping the lights on, and maybe creating an environment within your business, like taking that money and that now allows you to have like good practices within your business, versus like just being black and white and saying, no, I'm just turning everything down that doesn't really 100% align with my values. And I think that that's kind of like
I think that a lot of people are a bit too idealistic. Like your friend is not a designer,
no.
but I know a lot of designers that are very idealistic, and they do have strong ethics and morals. Like we, as an industry, at least we try to pretend like we're very progressive. If we are or not, that's something that we can debate about, I think. But one of the things that people like to always talk about is that they're very like, I don't know, progressive and politically and stuff. And that's where things like this come up. Like they feel like it's unethical to take on certain clients who they perceive as too capitalistic or not ethical enough. But then again, it's like, what about the people like us who profit off of that work? And then we can also hire people because we have that money. We benefit from it, and we're not unethical people. Like we're not capitalistic. So like I feel like the effects of it, of taking on that client, are positive. And someone's gonna do the work anyway, so it might as well be good people who deserve the money, right?
I mean, that's
Also,
actually, yeah,
sorry,
we
I
will be
think
interested to hear your take on that. Yeah.
I think because if a small studio, a small female-led studio, which is a good thing in itself, takes on maybe a client that's questionable to some, you will also have the chance, A, to survive, and B, maybe to support another business or another client that doesn't have the huge budget, because you were able to run your business and give them some sort of help that wouldn't be possible any other way. So maybe that's a good thing.
Yeah, like it's difficult to find like the right balance here.
Yeah, I just think
Yeah,
that
it
your
is.
friend in that case,
Yeah, exactly.
your friend in that case was seeing it very black and white, and also as if it's an easy decision to make, which it's not.
No.
And like you said, it didn't even cross our mind to turn it down. But I'm also not somebody who feels like we need to, like you already said, there are a couple of types of clients where I would draw the line, but mostly I don't really care. I am kind of a capitalistic person in that sense that, like, we're a business, we need to make profit to survive. Here's a client who wants our business, and I'm fine with doing it for them. I don't really care what their goals are, like in terms of like sustainability or ethics, or like it's not something that's a big deal to me.
Like
And I
talking
think that's
about like
okay. Like,
normal, like talking about within like boundaries of
yeah, like I said, obviously there are limits, but for me that limit would be like, I don't know, like the right-wing party in Austria. I wouldn't do a website for them.
Yeah. But you also do a vibe check with potential clients, right? Or I mean, if there's
Yes.
a person within that call and you absolutely don't fit and you don't want to work together, you would say no, right? Or
I
would
don't
you?
even know.
Yeah, I'm like thinking right now. Depends on
Well,
the
you have to
budget.
work with them like every day, and
For
you
me,
would
it really
hate it
depends.
because
Yeah, it really depends on the budget, like you said just now. Like, if it's a big budget, I really don't care. Like, I'll just suck it up. I'll be like, I really don't like this person, and I'll get really angry every time I have to have a meeting with them. But I'll just see the money and I'll be like, it's fine. But like I said, I feel like we are both very capitalistic in that sense.
Yeah, in that sense, yeah. Like we kind of like we want to stay freelancers. We want to keep the studio going. We want to work for ourselves because the alternative would be to work for someone else. And yeah, it's a bit difficult to find the balance, and everyone has like a different line that they draw. Like your values might be, I think our values align. However, I think that we might be at a different stage where we draw the line.
yes,
Maybe
of course,
that's
everybody is different in their journey, and that's all right.
exactly.
Yeah, I think it's also valid to, I feel like, yeah, I mean, I don't know. I feel like, do I wish that every client was nice and I could turn down people I didn't like? Yes, maybe. But I think that it doesn't bother me too much to work with
Oh, that's
people
good.
I dislike. Yeah. Because we do have that happen every now and then.
Yeah.
And it's usually not even like the client itself, but it's just somebody in the team that we don't vibe with, but we have to work with. And just kind of like, it's kind of like a compromise I'm willing to accept.
For a
Let's put it
higher
that way.
budget.
Yeah. For the money.
Wow, we sound horrible.
Yeah.
But speaking of values and capitalist system, okay, let's move it to like our industry's like relationship with capitalism. I think that like we have
Yes.
like a pretty like obvious stance on it. However, like I think, but I don't think that the whole industry like thinks like us. I think that a lot of people in the industry are value ethics and value driven and do purpose driven work. Um, and also I think that's why that maybe the judgments are higher if like some studios take on work that is like super questionable or the client is super questionable, because like we are very outspoken about our values. I mean, so are we do have values that we are very outspoken about. However, we are all operating in the capitalist system, and we are also benefiting from it. Like, for example, exploitation. Not a lot of us, but like a lot of studios or agencies run on unpaid internships.
That's true.
Spec work exists because we still give like clients a negotiation power long-term contracts with bad accounts exists because we need the money. Like we're all within the system that we kind of like just trying to navigate. We may be a different way than you, but we're still navigating the system. Do you think that our values are actually compatible with the system we're working inside?
I think in the end it comes down to what you as a person are okay with and how you want your day to day to look like, because it's you have to make yourself happy, right? And so I don't judge. I mean, I judge certain things, but I don't
We all do.
but I won't judge you for taking on Kylie Jenner, for example. I
Oh,
understand the
thanks.
decision behind it, and I haven't come across a client like that in my professional life yet. So I don't know what I would do, honestly,
Mhm.
because it's a big budget behind it. And of course, that's something that keeps your business growing, and that's cool and nice. And so, yeah, I think in the end, it's good to have values, and they don't have to be ethical, or they can also be, I want to earn money and I want to survive and I want to be able to pay my employees. That's also okay.
Yeah, I mean, that was one of like the biggest drivers that of our biggest drivers was that we wanted to create an environment that we never had. Like
Yeah.
especially when I was working for agencies, I did 2 unpaid internships. Oh, no, sorry, it wasn't unpaid, it was horribly paid. That makes a difference. I hardly had any free days. I didn't even learn much on these internships because I was mostly just exploited to do like photos. I was just like doing the same type of work and not really like gaining much knowledge from it. I mean, at least in my opinion, internships should be mutually beneficial. Sure, I'm going to be a cheap workforce for you, but at the same time, I would like to learn a lot of things here, and that's why I'm offering my
Yes.
cheap workforce. So, like,
Yeah, I mean,
it's
it's actually, I became self-employed because of my first job and that glimpse I got into the industry.
yeah,
And I thought like, okay, I hate this so much. I can't do
yeah.
this. I want to be my own boss. And that's why I became self-employed, really. So
Can you tell us some
yeah,
things that happened that drove that decision?
I hope my former boss don't ever see it, but I
It
don't
can be
think
more
so.
like it can be more like also
But
like
General.
generally speaking, I think that we all
um,
have experienced shitty things in this industry.
I think payment was one thing, because especially as a beginner, I mean, even now people are underpaid, and that's a problem. And then back then there were many males in management positions, and often those managers or bosses maybe they were good creatives, but they weren't good at leadership. So I experienced some situations where I thought, okay, I don't want to be treated that way. And that's why I said, okay, I'm not gonna take part in this. And funnily, during my studies, I always wanted to work at one of the big agencies and become big creative director and be very cool and fancy. But as soon as I got out of uni, I thought like, okay, no, that's not for me, especially because of the men. Yeah.
Wait, that's
Yeah, that's such a reality in our industry is that
Yeah.
yeah, that the big agencies are run by men, and that's
Yeah.
not something I see changing anytime soon because they're just, especially like in Austria, it's very
Yeah.
small. The network is very small. All the big clients are already allocated to these big agencies. Like breaking
Yeah.
through that system as a female-led studio would be almost impossible. And yeah, and that's just the reality of it. So
Yeah.
if you do decide to go that route, the agency route, as a woman, it's like it's very difficult because you're in those situations. I totally
It
get
is,
that.
yes.
I also had an internship, and that was my only experience ever in an agency, and also run by a man. He was okay, like it was fine, but it was just like I just felt like I had so many ideas and so much to bring to the table, and that wasn't really, I mean, I know I wasn't just an intern, whatever, I get that. But I just felt like it wasn't really appreciated, and I just didn't see that ever changing. I didn't see me like starting as an intern somewhere and then working myself up to some like director position. At the end of the day, you're still just like hired by them, and then I don't know. That always bothered me. So
Yes.
I was also like, okay, self-employment, let's go right
Yeah.
away.
I mean, speaking of industry flaws, what you're saying kind of rings true to my experiences as well. However, there is like this certain thing in this industry or like in our field where we like, or where we see like a lot of agencies present themselves as very progressive and
Yeah.
as very, yeah, as very progressive in terms of values, in terms of what they stand for. And then on the other side, then you have like this issue, like what you just mentioned, or like this exploitation of young designers. And and I'm just like wondering on your take on this, like, um, what do you think that, like, what? Wait, I'm having difficulties phrasing these questions because it's a bit like a abstract question, I guess. Um, my question is that where do you think this gap comes from? Why is this industry presenting themselves as so progressive? And in the background, I don't feel like the industry has caught up to the values that they are preaching. Might be a bit of a
Patriarchy.
loaded
Yes,
in one
patriarchy.
word, patriarchy. I mean,
No,
okay,
I mean
end
it's
episode.
no, it's a good question, but I think a lot. So, the actual work that we do, it requires for us to be progressive and to be up to date and to be up to date on trends and what's going on and tools and whatnot. Everything we have to know it. So, of course, I think agencies and the industry itself will proclaim that they are the hottest and newest new work. Everything is easy kind of way. But it's actually much harder than they think to really work in that new way and to have new work ethics. And I did a bit of recruiting, so that's a bit of side note on myself. I did a bit of recruiting for Good at 2 years ago. And there I got to talk to a lot of young designers, which is really interesting because young designers now they come out of university and they say, okay, I don't want to work 60 hours per week anymore. And I want to have a life and I want to be paid fair. And I think that's amazing because agencies need to provide that so they can have new talents coming in. But the reality is that there is a lot of struggle still, like you said. And why that is? Because Austria is slow. I mean, I don't know how it is in other countries, but Austria is particularly slow. And I think when we have older, mostly men in the leadership, it, and it's like, okay, we always did it that way and it worked that way. Why we just keep on going that way? That mentality is, yeah, it's not driving anything that could make things better, I think.
Yeah, I mean, that's also why it's so good to have like people like you also like really working value driven and putting such an emphasis on it. It just comes to show that there are different ways to be successful. As first of all, success looks different to everyone. Second of all, there are different ways to be successful. It doesn't need to be the way that it's like shown to us. I think that especially in the beginning, I really idolized those big agencies. I wanted to be
Mm,
one of them. I wanted
me
to
too.
be,
Yeah.
first of all, I wanted, like you said in the beginning when I was studying, I was like seeing myself in the best agencies in Vienna. Was really my goal. And once I started working in agencies or studios, I noticed also for myself, this is not a system I feel I can thrive in. I got very much, I got like a lot of anxiety. I even stopped being a designer. I actually am now a programmer because of the system. I just couldn't really withstand it. So Well, that's kind of like a
yeah.
sob story. This is kind of like dragging us down here.
No, but I also think this system is built for people who are very loud and who are. So I think the loudest are the ones that are heard most within the system, and those people are often men, because patriarchy, or how we are being raised, is often that men are being told so they can be loud and they can voice their opinion, and women are often being raised to be more silent or more caring. And yeah, and I think advertising industries or the creative industries thrives of loud people, that they will be heard more,
Yeah,
basically. Yeah.
that's so true. Like when you look at most famous designers, I mean, first of all, except for Jessica Walsh, no woman comes to my mind. Talking about really famous designers now.
No, there are
But she's
way more
also,
men.
yeah, but she's also very good at marketing herself and at
Yes.
promoting herself. Like
Yes.
she's very good at that. She's very loud, as you said.
Yeah.
And therefore she's known, and good. That's a good thing, of course. But again, there's what you said is actually so true. There's not a lot of space for people who aren't loud, and we often like, or when I was like still like researching a lot on the internet, like when I was looking for inspiration, it was always the same people that I saw like posting their work or like their work being recognized. It's because those were the people that were sending their work to awards. They were loud about their work. They just put themselves out there. And yeah, and if you're not that type of person, it's really
Mm.
difficult to find footing in this industry.
Yeah. If you're
Yeah.
an introvert, and I think there are many introverts that do great design work because they're so mindful about their work and they think a lot, and they have great concepts, and they will do really amazing work, and we never will get to see them because they're maybe are very shy and not that outspoken. And that's sad,
Yeah.
but that's reality.
Yeah, that's true. Well, moving from the system into more like individualism, like back to what we can do. I mean, we already mentioned that we like, not all of us, but a lot of us like to look at things black and white. And if you're not this, then you're that. Like we leave very little room for nuance. And I keep thinking like about this one TikTok where I saw someone say that I know, but hear me out. Um, where it like says, like the caption says basically, I can't be vegan, I love cheese. And then another one replies, it says, yeah, well, be vegan and eat cheese. And it's like, it sounds so contradictory because, of course, like eating cheese is not really aligning with the idea of veganism. However, if you can do the rest of it, but still eat cheese, you're still having like a better impact than just not doing anything just because, well, I can't, since I really want to eat cheese, I'm just going to eat the rest as well because I'm not vegan. And it just like kind of like, I don't know, it just kind of stayed with me because it just really shows that imperfect action is still like better than no action. And this also rings true to like the things that we said, us taking on Kylie Jenner, but then trying to like create a better environment within our agency and keeping us alive. Or like you turning down clients because you felt like if you take them on, this might not be positive on your mental health, I guess, or like on you and your business. So like everyone has like a different point where they draw the line and different actions that they take to live within their values. So, but well, obviously we're not the food industry. um, but well, very bad practices aside, how do you find the line between holding your values and keeping your business alive?
I think I was lucky with my current clients, or the clients I had in the past, because they actually were a good fit. And they kept my business alive. And also, if you have one client, maybe you will get recommended to another one and another one. So, and it goes on, and then So my clients know the same people. They have their crowd, and so that's a good fit. But I mean, I don't know what would happen if all of them were gone by tomorrow, and I would have to take on the client that's not 100% aligned with what I would like to stand for. I don't know. In the end, we all need to survive, and like I said, I think if you have the chance to even just do a bit better and do a bit of good, it's better than if you don't do anything at all. Like with the cheese and the veganism, it's like that.
Yeah. See, TikTok is so real.
No, I think it's really relevant because we live in an age where people like to cancel you for like one mistake or not even a mistake, but like one thing that doesn't
Yes,
align
yes,
with what they
yes,
expect from
but
you.
I mean,
Yeah.
because I just had this conversation. I mean, it's another thing, but I just had this conversation with my partner about Kanye West, who is now trying to do a world tour, and I keep asking myself, why isn't he canceled for all the things that he said and done? But I think Janet Jackson her career was ended because her boob was exposed by somebody, and that's so
By a
wrong.
man.
Yeah.
Yeah, that wasn't even her fault too, which makes it even worse.
Yes.
I mean, yeah, obviously there's a huge difference between men and women and what they can
Yes.
afford to, what kind of mistakes they can afford to make.
But I think in your example, especially, like it's again about the value. I don't think that Kanye West has like a certain set of values and then made a mistake that didn't align with them.
That's true,
I just
yeah.
don't think that the values align in general.
Yeah, he just
Yes.
doesn't have the values in general for sure.
Yeah.
It happens more often with people who have values and do a lot already
Yeah.
in a certain field, and then they do one thing that like their community doesn't agree with. That's when they try to then cancel them for this one little thing, even though like in the grand scheme of things, they're actually doing a lot of really valuable work. Like I always think of Daria, who's like a big influencer in the
Yeah.
Austria, Germany.
Das ist Kartoffel.
Yeah, and this was a while back now, but like she's done a lot like in terms of, you know, like education on sustainability, and she even has her own label now, which is like ethical, sustainable, all that. And then she had this one morning where she made a sweet potato in the oven, like a single sweet potato for breakfast, and she shared that. And there was this huge shitstorm about her using so much energy for one single breakfast, and like she should be eating oatmeal, which doesn't take any energy, and all this weird stuff. And like they really tried to cancel her for the sweet potato. It's just so ridiculous because like imagine, because is she vegan? I think she's vegan.
She's vegan, yeah.
Oh no, actually she's not. She's like this vegan who eats cheese every now and then. That was also like a big thing. Like she had to be perfect all the time, and if she did one little thing that wasn't perfect, it would be this huge outrage.
Yeah, I feel like
And it's like the cheese example that you mentioned. Like that person wanting to be vegan and then being like, but I like cheese. You know, the vegans would probably come for that person, be like, then you're not vegan. And then, you know, they would get discouraged and they wouldn't do it at all. And it would be much more positive for the world if people like that had a response like someone who commented, then just eat cheese and be vegan otherwise. That's more positive for the world than trying to like be perfect, that if you can't be perfect, don't do it at all.
Yeah.
That doesn't really help anybody. And it's the same in our industry, like us taking on Kylie Jenner, or like your friend being like, how could you do that? Like, how would that have benefited anyone if we had said no to that? Like, okay, then we would be morally clean or whatever in her eyes. But what impact does that actually have on, like, in the big picture?
I think the difference is like being more like idealistic versus being more like realistic in this type of situations. Where like in case of Daria, I feel like it's since she represented those values and she was like obviously had the people that were projecting their values onto her. If you represent a certain set of values but then act against it, then this scrutiny, this is how you say it, is like way bigger than if you're just an asshole and do shitty things and people like, oh, whatever. It's just this, this is just
Yeah,
who
it's
they
just
are.
expected.
Kind of the
Yeah.
Kanye West example that you mentioned,
Yeah.
Julia. It's kind of
I
like
think we shouldn't be so hard on everybody. I think with social
Yeah.
media, people have become so hard on everybody for everything that they do. And if we all would put more energy in not commenting on stuff that people do and just trying to do something nice actually for whatever it is that you believe in, we would have a better world. But yeah.
I have one question for you, like in this on this topic of, doing one wrong thing or whatever. Since you have this positioning as, values driven and working with people that share your values, if you did work with a client that also like outwardly people would think that doesn't really line up, would you put it in your portfolio or would you just do the work and not tell anyone about it?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, my studio is called To Be Honest, so I'm gonna be honest. Of course, I have done work that's not in my portfolio, mainly because it's not 100% with what I want to do visually. Um, it always has been with nice clients though, but sometimes I do have a client that just needs a quick fix for something, and I will help them because why wouldn't I do it? I don't know. It's a really tough question. I haven't been in that position because if a client got to me now and, for example, I wouldn't take on a political party.
Yeah.
No
But I
political
think that's
party, actually.
the hard line again.
But even if it was something like, I don't know, OMV or some, what's also extreme weapons or something like that. But I think I wouldn't take it on in the first place.
I get it. I don't think we
So
would. Do you think we'll take on a Glock?
Clock? I don't think so.
Not exactly like.
OMV, yes.
Yeah, I don't know. Weirdly, I think so too.
But
Oh my god.
yeah, we're such capitalists. But it also doesn't make sense for you. Like the question is a little bit unfair because your positioning is, values driven and values like so putting that in your portfolio would confuse people about your positioning.
yes.
So on the one hand, yes, you should be honest, but on the other hand, like it wouldn't make sense to show that in any case.
Yeah.
I'd just feel like people would probably try to cancel you for that. So yeah.
No, it's like this is a very interesting and heavy topic. I didn't realize when I was preparing this that this is actually like touching on a lot of like it's obviously so personal, the values that you have. But when I was preparing this episode, I wasn't realizing how much transparency we also expect from you. So
no, it's okay. I mean, I have to be transparent. My studio is called To Be Honest. Right?
Yeah, no, but it's an important conversation to have, and I think that what we mentioned in the beginning, there's so much nuance to it, and it's difficult to be like all politically correct because where do your values start and where do they end, and where are you just like saying what other people say but not really standing behind them? Like,
Yeah, honestly, I would prefer someone who is honest about the compromises they had to make for financial reasons, whatever. Like, let's say you did take on some client that other people wouldn't agree with. Like, it would be way better, I think, for everybody to be honest about that and open about it because that's more respectable than being some big agency acting like you're so progressive. But then you're exploiting like a lot of young, often female creatives. Like, I don't know, like to me, it's more respectable to be somebody who's honest, sometimes makes maybe questionable decisions, but out of necessity, than to act like you're not doing all of that and you're so perfect and like doing your Women's Day post on Instagram and whatever and being performative.
Yeah.
actually, that brings me to sorry.
I think like greenwashing, for example, I think it's a good word. It's worse to try to greenwash whatever it is that you are doing than actually just saying, okay, that's what I'm doing, and it's okay. I'm okay with that. And like we said, it's not all black and white. And if you just really having a bit of good in what you're doing, it's better than nothing.
Yeah, 100% agree.
I mean, that actually like probably almost answers the question that we talked about, but I'm gonna ask it anyways. Do you think if more creators were honest about the gray areas, the industry would become less judgmental and actually be more progressive?
Maybe it's so hard to be a creative, really,
It is.
because
It,
you just want to. So you want to do nice, pretty things and earn money while doing it, but there's so much more to it, and especially right now where there's so much competition. And I get it. At some point, you just have to earn money, and you will do stuff you will take on clients that maybe are not the best fit, and that's okay. Like I said, I don't judge that. So what was the question again? I lost my thought.
No, it's just basically if we were, I guess, in other words, if we were all just more transparent and honest about the gray areas, like, I mean, this is like going into like again back to Daria. Like, hey, yes, I'm honest. I'm eating the cheese. I'm making my sweet potato in the oven. And yes, that's all true. And if everyone were that honest about um, what they're doing in the background,
But
basically, that might not be completely aligned 100 million or like 100% with their values, that would actually lead to more progressiveness than just like having values, but in the
yeah,
background doing
Not
others.
actually practicing what you preach. Yeah.
Exactly.
I mean, do you think that us as creatives, we need to show a lot of what's going on in the background? I mean, in the end, nobody cares if we're eating sweet potatoes. They want to see if we do good work. So for us, we mainly share our portfolio, our process, our services, those things. And for me, I always keep asking myself, do people actually care, my community, my audience, do they actually care about my breakfast or what? Yeah, if I'm a vegan or not, because I don't think so.
Mm.
For
I
me, as a
think
service
no.
provider, I think it's more important to show what my services do for my clients and how they help them.
Yeah, I think what I would want to see more of is the reality and of the big agencies that
Mm,
are doing the work that they're doing, because we only ever see portfolio, we see awards, we see praise, we see big clients, big names on their website, but we don't see enough of what's happening behind the scenes. We don't see
that's true.
enough of, okay, who's being promoted, who is in leadership, who's being exploited, and how many people are they exploiting. I think there's more transparency needed on our industry in terms of that. And I think that what small studios can do is show or be a good example. I think if a small studio is able to run a values-based business, why can't an agency that has way more money and resources do the same? And it doesn't have to be in terms of like which clients they take on, but in terms of the ethics and the work environment. Offering, like you said, like you worked with you got to know a lot of young creatives, and they have a lot more demands nowadays, like not having a 60-hour work week or working with a, what's it called, all-in contract where you do overtime and you're not paid for it. um those those agencies should be able to meet that demand, like they have the resources and the money. So I think there needs to be more transparency on like why aren't they doing that, why are they now like hiring or not hiring people, instead using AI, like where's that coming from, and why. So I think like that's something, I don't know, I guess my whole point is just like the transparency and the ethics and the values. I think if we were more honest about those things, that there would be more change in those areas.
Yes. Yes. Also, be very honest about what you earn.
Yeah.
That's
Salaries. I
that's
think
very important point.
because then design would actually have more financial value, because that's also a very important part of this value discussion, because our work is so valuable.
Yes.
It is.
Yeah,
And not a lot of people know that. So
yeah.
Yeah, that's also the price transparency is a big issue. There's not talking about pricing, and then all you ever see are these prices online, which are crazy,
yeah.
insane, like $50 logo situations, which doesn't represent the reality for people who are actually trying to make a living doing what they do.
Yeah. So, well, this was pretty loaded. I would actually I'm like, oh, need a
You,
breather.
you wanna try and find a positive way to end the episode?
Yeah, well, I feel like there was so much more to say, and I would like want to hear so much more from you. And I don't know, I would be interested in having a conversation about like the pricing value and the transparency, but I feel like that's a whole other episode.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
looking at yes, and looking at the time, we need to come to our closing question already. This kind of passed pretty quick.
Yeah.
I didn't even
Yes,
realize.
it
I
did.
just checked the time
Me
now, and
either.
it's almost over an hour. So, do you want to do the honors?
Yeah, sure. So the final question that we wanted to ask you is like if you could go back, because you said it took you kind of a while to get to that point where you reflected on the capitalistic nature of our work and you also then made a change in terms of your positioning. But if you could go back in time and talk to your younger self, what's something that you wish you would have upheld from the very beginning in terms of your values?
Maybe it would be to tell myself to believe in my thoughts and my values, and believe believe in myself, basically. Because as a young designer, especially as a female young designer, you are often not being seen as valuable as you maybe are. And it's hard work to be to stand for what you want to put out there. And I think people now, or the younger designers now, are more self-aware, and they will stand more for what they value. I say value a lot.
We
But
all
yeah, I
did.
think in the end it comes down to tell myself to believe in myself more, and yeah, do good,
Okay.
and that's good.
That's beautiful. To do good, and that's good.
Yeah, and I also think it doesn't matter when you make that realization. Like, even though it took you longer to get there, like you're now at a place that's like true to yourself. So I think that a lot of people just don't feel like, oh, it's been, like you said before, like we've done this way so long and it's worked. So why change it? But I think if you have that feeling like something needs to change, why not change it, even if you've been doing it one way for a really long time?
Yeah, I think it really comes down to how, if you're happy in your everyday work life, if you have a work-life balance, and if you have a burnout within 2 years, maybe you should ask yourself some questions how you want to work. And that, for me, that's also, I mean, a lot of young designers, especially back when I was starting out, were in a burnout within a couple of years of starting to work. And I never wanted that for myself. and
Yeah, that's a good decision.
and I mean, yeah, we came out of university and we loved working 60-hour work weeks. It was the cool thing to do back then. At some point I realized, okay, no, that's not sustainable. And if I want to do this job for some more years, I'm gonna have to change some things eventually. And since the industry wouldn't provide that environment for me, I had to make it myself, really. And so everybody should become self-employed. No, but but I think agencies, they have a lot of work to do, and it's good that people are getting more demanding towards agencies, and for those who are running their own studios. they should really look into this as well.
Yeah, I think that just as a closing thought,
Yeah.
that oh shit, no, I lost the thread. Fuck. I had a good one. And now I'm annoyed. Oh, my ADHD is kicking in. Yeah, I got it. So the closing thought is the following. Like we talked about transparency and leading with example. Like for example, you're saying, okay, this environment didn't work for me, so I created my own environment. And when you create your own environment, you sometimes, when you like also employ people, you create the own environment that you wished for someone else too. And I think with those changes, like seeing, okay, it is possible to have studios like that being profitable, people did get more demanding because they saw, hey, it's possible. Like you have like small leaders or like even bigger leaders now that are doing those things. It is totally possible. And yeah, so that's the closing thought that I had that I had to share. Maybe you can
Thank
cut
you.
it or whatever.
Yeah, it is possible. That's a nice closing thought, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much for joining us today. It
Thank
was
you
a
so much
really interesting
having me.
episode. I'm sure our audience will
I
enjoy
agree.
it. Thank you for listening to this episode. If you enjoyed this conversation on values and how to incorporate them into your business, you might want to check out our episode with Alvar Almendares, where we talk about how he's creating values-driven brands for founders at his studio. And if you like our podcast, please leave us a 5-star rating.